Do you know what? I don't know why it's taking me this long to share this story, but I feel like it's more relevant than ever that I do actually share it now. So here we go. As many of you guys know, and if you don't know, before I was doing YouTube, I was working full-time in nutrition, clinical nutrition. I was working in many different clinics. Some of them were addiction clinics, some of them were eating disorder clinics. And then around that, I was also working with private patients with just many different health conditions, right? Okay. And I also explained why I stepped away from that, because at the time, after doing it for 4 or 5 years, it felt very heavy on me because of what I was personally going through at the time. And I realized that I needed more light and just a creative outlet, in my life, which then kind of became my life. And I'm extremely grateful for that. However, I really want to go back to this one experience of why I was fired. I say fired, we kind of left on mutual agreement terms, but only because I wouldn't adhere to what they wanted me to say. And I guess this really kind of makes me proud in a way that I'm able to just root myself in truth, even if it kind of means losing a job in a great place. So here's the story. You're probably thinking, what the fuck did you do, Miles? Actually, nothing bad for once. What I did was only with the patients, all of the patients I worked with, best intention in mind. I'm not going to name the exact place, this exact place, and you won't be able to guess because I worked in many. And if you do guess, extra points for you. I also love this place, so it's like nothing negative about them. But, and I was their head nutritionist for 5 years at a very young age, like when I was 24, I believe. Like fresh out of college, I was dumped into one of the most extreme jobs. I wasn't just working with people that wanted to lose weight or wanted to clear up their skin or this or that. No, I was working with people with eating disorders, which is very relevant to this video. I was working with people with failing livers, alcoholics, all kinds of, health conditions. My job was not just, oh, this is healthy and this is not. It was more like, okay, I'm reading blood tests. I'm cross-referencing supplements. It was a lot of responsibility in certain places that I worked in. It's always a challenge and you always have to be prepared, leave your problems at the door, and remember you are just there to help the person in front of you as best as you can. I have spoken about my opinion on this before and I feel more strongly about it than ever. Nothing is ever going to make me waver in it. It never did, it never has, it never will. Thing is as well, I did speak in a video, I'll leave it down below. But it was about, that one was more of a rant and I kind of made it more satire, more comedic, because I always just say sometimes to endure watching these things or knowing that certain types of information are even out there, you have to be able to laugh about it, or it's kind of just like bang bang, Don't anyone bang bang, but you know what I'm saying. One thing I've always been very, very adamant about is that eating disorders are not actually about food. Right? They are about control, and it's about releasing and relieving that control and replacing that fear with self-love and self-freedom. Remember, it gets to the point with certain people where their whole life, their whole day, their whole structure, their whole being revolves around what they're eating, weighing themselves multiple times a day, etc., etc. And as someone that actually has experienced this myself at a young age and worked through it and understands all the psychology behind it, and again had 5 years experience working with this, I know it's not about the food at this point. This particular place had a very strict rule that no matter what kind of eating problem you had, whether it was binge eating, whether it was bulimia, anorexia, undereating, whatever, you weren't allowed to eat sugar. Sugar, it was classed as a drug, just like heroin was, just like cocaine was. This video is totally going to be demonetized if I keep using these words, but what else? That included white flour, that included white grains, like even like white rice. Now let me bring it back to the point that addiction, and especially eating disorders, is not actually about what you're eating. I mean, it is to a certain extent, and to recover as well. There's a method to that of course you have to think about psychological, refeeding the brain and, nourishing the body in an adequate way. But the main part is the mental focus, changing your thought pattern around things that led you to that place of food controlling your life and being afraid of certain things, having rules and patterns that literally take you away from living any kind of normal, good quality of life, right? I think that anyone that has been through this themselves would absolutely be able to attest to this. And I know this is controversial because like there are certain people on the internet that don't like to class foods as good or bad. And whilst I understand why they're doing that, again, because they're trying to break people's fear of food, which is exactly my point of this video, it is true that certain foods are, and I'll say this as a professional, that it is true that certain foods are extremely healthy, certain foods are not, and it's okay to say that. Whilst we have that knowledge, it is not okay to continue to fear something to the point where you're kind of programmed to think that if you ever touch sugar, for example, even if you put a couple of spoons of sugar in your tea, it's kind of classed as a relapse, as a failure, as a bad thing. It is quite funny because for this place, I did actually rewrite the eating disorder guidelines. But when I first joined, of course, I wasn't, you know me, I'm ready to just insert my opinion and truth anywhere, and I won't back down from that. But they did have that rule, and I was like, okay, I want this job and blah, blah, blah. And I really would love this incredible experience where most nutritionists would not get that kind of experience in such an intense environment in an addiction clinic. So I stuck to it for a very long time. But then I realized, okay, am I really helping these people by absolutely giving them the right diet plan, absolutely working, you know, on the mental side of it around food, which again, there were lots of psychologists involved as well that were helping them with that. But you know, both things can be true, that the intention is to help someone. But if you are reinstilling additional fear into someone that they are doing something bad, we're talking about people with eating disorders who already fear eating, who already have fear around certain foods. Again, there are things that are objectively healthy and objectively not. And it's okay to sometimes eat the ones that are not. It's not going to kill you. You can also choose to just eat whole foods. I would also support that. Fantastic. But when we're talking about people that already fear, they're already living through fear, there's no way in hell I'm going to enhance that fear and tell them, you know what? You only allowed to eat whole foods for the rest of your life. This is the plan that we're going to give you, or I'm going to give you. And when you leave here, don't ever touch sugar again, because it's just as addictive as cocaine and heroin. And you know what? This is the thing. There was a lot of research done where people say sugar is just as addictive as cocaine and heroin, just because it lights up the same receptors or like whatever pathways in the brain, in rats, etc. Now, whilst this may be true, right? Eating too much sugar may put you into an afternoon slump. It's certainly not going to send you back to rehab. It's certainly not going to kill you. So what I would do with these patients is absolutely work with them, listen to them, make sure they were eating correctly, rebuilding their health, you know, like looking at their blood tests, making sure they're improving, etc., etc., etc. But when it got to the part of, oh, okay, I'm supposed to tell them that they can't ever eat sugar or anything refined. Imagine going to a restaurant. You're in a Mexican restaurant, you want a burrito, they only have white rice. Oh my God, that would be classed as a relapse. An Italian restaurant, they just have regular white wheat pasta, or they have pizza made with white flour. What is wrong with that? How is that a relapse to have a nice evening with your friends and eat a bowl of spaghetti? That is not a relapse, my friends. That is called freedom. I've always said to work with eating disorders, you have to really understand the mindset behind it and have overcome it yourself, which I'm very glad that is something I can say. I could say at a very young age, you know, when I was in sport and dealt with that, got through it, then worked with it. I would actively say to them, and you could think this is wrong or right, sugar is not a health food, but it's also not a drug like cocaine. It is okay if you eat a whole foods diet, if you're nourishing yourself. If you've removed that fear and then you eat a cookie, so fucking what? Because you know what? That is when you take control over your life and you have that freedom. Because for me, again, it's not about the food. It's not about the cookie. It's not about the ice cream. I understand that very, very sweet things can lead to wanting more and more and more of them. But again, people that take it to the extreme are people that already have underlying trauma and are unable to stop because they are drowning their feelings. Leaving the clinic just saying, okay, I'm never going to eat sugar again, and that's my path of recovery, is not recovery. So yeah, one day one of the managers of the clinic pulled me aside. They were like, Miles, You're one of the best. No, you're not one of the best. I'm not like just bigging myself up. You know, I'm the first one to tear myself down and take the piss out of myself and admit all my flaws. And I was pulled aside and they kind of said to me, like, you know, Miles, you're the best nutritionist we've ever had, but you can't tell the patients that it's okay to have sugar from time to time. And I was like, well, I can, and I am, and I'm helping them, and I'm getting great results because I'm giving them freedom and health. That's the truth. We need to end on that way. It's okay because I can only live by truth knowing I've genuinely helped someone rather than just increase fear in their mind, and unnecessary fear. I was willing to lose my job over that, to stand in that truth of the moment and actually reflect back to them, this is not helping people. The goal, the only goal, should be to remove all of that. Focus on health too, but remove it and give and support freedom within that. And I said, I've loved working with you, but I'm not going to budge on this because I know what is right and what is wrong for these people. We parted ways, and it was a very eye-opening experience for me because number one, I genuinely missed working in that place because I loved it there, and much more than a lot of the other places I was working in. But it was the one thing that I just thought, no. I'm so proud of myself, to be quite honest. I don't say this very often with all the things I've achieved in my life. I never even say this about tennis. Like it's an area of my life I hide, but I'm very proud that I was able to just stand in my truth, knowing that all I wanted to do was genuinely help people. And again, I've spoken about this before, but it's very prevalent online as well, with certain arse wipes. I'm sorry, I don't care if anyone wants to say I'm being a bitch. Like at this point, I just don't know what to say about people that pretend that they've recovered from their own eating disorder when really they are just managing it by only eating a certain few foods that feel safe to them, and 80% of the other foods in the world don't feel safe to them, and that's their way of staying in a safe lane, staying in a box, going out to a restaurant and only ordering like the nicest restaurant in the world, and you go there and you order boiled potatoes and steamed broccoli. Are you fucking kidding me? That's not recovery. That's not fun. That's not healthy. That's not real life. That is called being a slave to your eating disorder, listening to it, accustoming your life around it, as well as classing everyone that has a problem with eating in the same box. Makes me wanna, I don't know what it makes me wanna do, but how do you delete someone else's channel? Moving on to the most important thing I wanna share, and that is that you guys know, and for reasons I haven't explained yet, if you haven't seen my last vlog, link down below, I'm now here in Sweden, but I had to take a lot of time off. And during that time, off of YouTube and what I do now as a creator, which is always going to continue because I am just a creative person that has to do that. Like I just cannot live without creating. I know this, or I go more insane. I was born there. My dad told me. He was always like, you know what, you're a genius, but you're also such a stubborn motherfucker that you just won't budge. And you just won't listen to anyone. And you know what? I'm happy for that. I know deep down, after having these experiences, I actually just want to help people. So yeah, during all of that time off, I was really reflecting on other things that are so important to me in my life and why I really stepped back from it at the time. In my mind, I thought there was no way I was ever going to go back there, right? Even though you guys have requested it so much since day dot, and I've always said nope. I just wanted to close that chapter and I couldn't fully understand why. The time itself just sparked something within me that made me realize I have something really special to offer here, and I'm not going to hold back just because I kind of closed that chapter and just because now I just want to create. So what I am offering now is one-to-one sessions with me. They will be extremely limited spaces because again, I'm coming back to being a full-time creator, and you know, my services do not just my services. When I mentioned that, I'm not just an eating disorder specialist. You know, I work with everyone. Whatever your goals are, whatever your struggles are, whether you're male, whether you're female, I want it to be a safe space. And I don't think I need to list the things that come with that. If you want to talk about sports nutrition, if you want to talk to me about addiction, if you are suffering with an eating disorder or any other kind of health condition, we can work on that with short-term and long-term goals. So I guess after years of lots of you requesting it, I'm opening that up. Link down below. All you need to do is contact me. If there aren't spaces available, I'll also let you know that. And I'm excited to go through a journey with you that leads you ultimately to freedom, to being heard, to being seen, and to better mental and physical health, which I mean, did you hear my stomach just grumble? Me here sitting talking about nutrition, and it's like 2 p.m. and I have not eaten a thing. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think. What are your opinions down below? If you're someone that's ever struggled with food, do you think that the answer is to just avoid certain things that you see as unsafe? Or do you actually see, to me, based on experience, it's crystal clear, but leave your opinions down below. I am actually pretty hungry now. Okay, bye.